Hey students, welcome to Student Night and welcome to your group. My name is Elijah and I am the student director at the West Toledo campus. Now don't you hate it when things are unfair?
No fair!
Like when you studied for hours and hours for that history test you barely passed only to find out your friend got a B, who you know for a fact got the answers from a friend before he took it. Totally unfair, right? Or when your sister, who never cleans her room, never does her chores, and always messes things up, seems to always get what she wants, while you feel like you hardly ever get what you want. It's frustrating because you're actually the one who cleans up around the house, yet you never seem to get any recognition from your parents. It's unfair. Maybe you have to share a car with your brother, but you're the one who always pays for gas and keeps it clean. Unfair.
Well, that's not fair!
Maybe you have to watch the athletes be excused early from class. From the big game, you know this means they have extra time to prepare for the test. Unfair, right? Now, I could keep going. However, this happens all the time when I'm scrolling through Instagram. I can't count the number of times I've been scrolling, totally happy with my life, minding my own business, watching friends' stories until I see something that completely deflates me. Like when you see the same people traveling every weekend or hitting up the lake like they weren't just there last weekend.
So, Allie, what have you been up to this summer?
I've been spending a lot of time at my aunt and uncle's lake house.
That must be cool. What do you guys do up there?
We jet ski, we have campfires, sometimes fireworks, all the fun stuff.
I've been sitting at home all summer, so it must be nice to have a lake house to go to.
Yeah, it's the best.
Cool.
He got to go to the concert I was dying to see, and it's all over his story. Or his family is still together, which means he doesn't have to change houses every weekend like I do. She and all of her siblings are good at every sport they play. I'm pretty sure all of them have offered full scholarships to play in college. Or another thing you may say is she looks good in everything she wears, while I struggle to even have clear skin, let alone look good in an outfit. He got the newest this. Her life is so much better because she has that. Do you know what I mean? I can go from a feeling good about my life
Welcome to the good life.
to feeling like life isn't great in about 10 seconds.
Good morning, Pooh Bear.
If it is a good morning, we tried to help.
And then, all of a sudden, I'm not just disappointed, I am ticked off.
Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this.
Sometimes, it's just not fair.
Not fair, no hair, not fair, nowhere, no hair, not fair, not fair, not fair.
And you know this already. In addition to feeling miserable, when we do this, we start to assume that other people have the perfect life. We look at what they put online and then match it up to what we know is true about our own current reality. And when we do that, their life looks better, they look better, we recognize a familiar reality, their life is greater than my life. We feel less than, and it's that time typically when we respond in one of the following ways. We overachieve, maybe seeing everyone else's perfect life lights a fire under you and you start working really hard to keep up with what other people are doing and projecting in hopes of getting the same results. Or we do nothing, maybe watching others make you feel like there's no way you can do what they do or be who they are, so why even try? We play it over and over in our minds, whether it's anxiety, sadness, jealousy, or motivation to go out there and make your post look better. You may find yourself unable to think about anything else. No matter how we respond, the result is the same. It feels bad. That's what comparison does. Here's the tricky thing about comparing our life to someone else's. We know ourselves too well. We know and live the good, the bad, the happy, and the sad, and we know that places like social media are designed to display the highlights of life, just the good stuff. That's why we will do everything we can to make sure that others only see the highlight reel of our lives.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna show you how I edit my Instagram pictures.
We aren't going to post about the fight we just got in with our girlfriend, on our real Instagram at least. But we will post a fire photo of ourselves, and we even take that one photo 30 times just to make sure that we are having the right lighting, look, filter, angle, or we rewrite the same funny comment 30 times to make sure it's actually funny. And seriously, I just Google mine, so admit it, you've probably totally done that. We've all perfected the art of projecting the life we want others to think we have, even if it doesn't match the life we actually have. And here's what's crazy. We forget that everybody else is doing the same thing. They're posting their best life, not their real life, but somehow our brains trick us into believing that their highlights are the entire story. Let me say it another way. When we compare ourselves to others, especially on social, we believe things about ourselves based on someone else's half-truth or fully fake display. Comparison has become such a norm in our culture that most of us don't even realize we're doing it. I want to talk about it, and I want to help you do something about it. In a world full of social media, that may seem impossible and totally unrealistic, but hang with me. I think we may be surprised at what is possible.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible!
Now, one of the greatest teachers and followers of Jesus that ever lived was a guy named Paul. He made it his mission to make sure that everyone he met knew how their lives could benefit from following Jesus. He traveled all over the known world, establishing relationships with many different groups of people in different regions who viewed him as an authority figure when it came to how to live a better life thanks to Jesus. Now, Paul, he traveled a lot from town to town in order to maintain relationships with people, offering them the life-changing news of Jesus and what he offered. But when Paul wasn't presenting to the different churches he planted, he made a point to write letters to stay connected, almost like sliding in somebody's DMs. Back then, there wasn't Snapchat and DMs weren't a thing, so no sliding was being done. They actually had to put work to communicate. In these letters, Paul was known for being pretty direct, aka he was a savage. He was passionate about following Jesus and leading others to do the same. While everything Paul did was out of love, it's likely that sometimes people felt like they were being called out in areas where they weren't necessarily measuring up. In response, they did what a lot of us do. They lashed out, aka they clapped back. Have you ever done that? They began to tear Paul down, their strategy to feel better about themselves, to make him look worse. And kind of in other words, they were petty. Listen to how Paul responded to these criticisms. Oh, don't worry. We wouldn't dare say that we are as wonderful as these other men who tell you how important they are. But they are only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as the standard of measurement. How ignorant. This is in 2 Corinthians 10:12. Now, another version of this reads, understand putting ourselves in a league with those who boast that they are superiors. We wouldn't dare do that. But in all this comparing and grading and competing, they quite miss the point. Now, I'm not sure, but this seems like the ancient tool of sarcasm. Paul clapped back at the critics. He wasn't messing around, and in this passage, he's addressing the comparing that is going on among people and the struggle that it has created. Paul is saying, in no uncertain terms, it's absolutely ridiculous to let your behavior and life be based on comparison to someone else's behavior or life. And it's even more ridiculous to spend time figuring out how people measure up to you, people just like you, in order to make yourself look better. If I were to sum things up, Paul was saying, hey, look, but comparing any human to another human is an ignorant idea and it makes you look silly. My mom used to tell me there's always going to be someone who has more than you, and there's always going to be someone who has less. Her point wasn't for me to focus on people who had less that I'd feel better about myself. Her point wasn't for me to focus on people who had more so that I would stay humble. Her point was that comparing with others was pointless. It was a game I would never win. There's a principle found in the book of Proverbs. It's a book from the Old Testament of the Bible, a time before Jesus was around, that Paul would have known by heart. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And this is in Proverbs 4:23, if you want to look that up later. Solomon, the man who wrote this principle, was passionate about how important it is to guard our hearts. Why? Because what we do almost always comes from what we believe in our hearts. Our hearts matter because they control everything else. So we should guard our hearts. The opposite one of the quickest ways to destroy our hearts is comparison. If we see a post of how great someone else's life is and we allow it to get to our hearts, to mess with what we believe about ourselves, we're in danger. If it makes us feel less than or worthless, it's like an attack on the heart that we can ultimately mess with our whole lives. That's why we have to get this right. Don't compare your worth with their posts. Don't look at someone else, assume that their life is perfect, and conclude that your life is no good because in that moment, it doesn't look like theirs. Don't make a decision about how you look or don't look based on someone else's picture, a picture that was most likely taken over 30 times, filtered, face-tuned, and edited. Don't make decisions about your worth on what you see or perceive in other people. It may be easy, but it starts the very word Solomon used, guard. Set some boundaries for what you see and what you allow your heart to participate in. If something messes with how you think, destroys how you feel, or gives off bad vibes, pay attention to that and step in to give yourself a break. So much of this can be tough to notice in the moment. That's why being on guard can be helpful. Pay attention to what you do when you feel yourself spiraling into the comparison game. Maybe you find yourself overachieving and striving for the attention of others. Maybe you find yourself feeling so deflated that you wonder, why do I even try? Maybe you find yourself playing the images of words over and over in your mind. When those things happen, pay attention. That's your clue that you're stuck in the comparison game. So when that happens, ask yourself these questions. Number one, what things are feeling how I feel? Number two, what are some things I want to do because of how I feel? Or number three, who am I comparing myself to that's bringing up these feelings? We guard our hearts by paying attention to what we feel when we're tempted to play the comparison game and by the love that Jesus has for you. This may seem like a really big task. That's why we are going to head into a small group now to talk about what it looks like for you in your life to guard your heart and to stop the comparison game. You aren't the only one who struggles to compare your life with somebody else's. But living a life where you feel less than doesn't have to define how you feel, and it certainly doesn't need to define your worth. Remember, don't compare your worth to their posts. What would it look like if you began to guard your heart when it comes to comparing your life to others? Imagine being able to walk in with confidence about who you are. Imagine how different your day would be. Now, if you're not a part of a group, you're really missing out. But if you want to be a part of a group, it's really easy to get connected. You text students to 409-409-0707 or follow a link at cedarcreek.tv/students and that'll be able to point you in the right direction. But if anyone that's already in groups and watching this, have a blast at your group and I hope to see you next week.